Welcome! In this video, I will give my response to the criticism of Kabanamani456 and IGN. If you haven't watched the previous parts of this episode, then I strongly advise you to do so. First off, let's look at IGN's criticism of this game. Quote, "In taking some risks with the level design, Sonic Lost World stumbles into some bad ideas. Naturally, there's a tinge of Super Mario Galaxy influence injected into each level, but most of it misses the point. Galaxy largely gives us freedom to explore and platform through carefully constructed levels at our own pace. By comparison, the idea of firing a hedgehog out of a slingshot as it tries to navigate fragmented terrain at high speeds feels misguided. To Lost World's credit, a few stages managed to achieve this tall order, but the majority failed to capture that Mario magic." Unquote. Parkour should ease up the supposed fragmentation by making transitions between platforms smoother, on top of which, the ability to speedrun at the level I did suggests at least this stage isn't among those that are supposedly too fragmented to suit Sonic's fast playstyle. There is also the walking pace one can use if running and spin dashing are too fast. Walking should also ease the supposed fragmentation of the level design. As I said earlier, the presses may push you to master switching between holding down the parkour button and releasing it. Sonic's parkour allows the player the pleasant ability to backtrack and explore in ways that may have been impossible with Sonic in older games, but rather similar to Knuckles or Tails. Based on what I just mentioned, I think it likely that the Mario magic is present in this stage. Quote, "With so many positive changes, I can't fathom how intrusive motion control segments found their way into this game." Unquote. This stage doesn't have any motion control segments as far as I know. Quote, "Motion controls are a major part of a gameplay in the special stages too, and the awkward way I often had to turn my body in place in order to aim the flying hedgehog at floating bubbles means they aren't fit for play in public spaces. In fact, half of the time I wish these unlockable areas would have just stayed secret." Unquote. When one completes a stage with 50 or more rings, one is given a choice to enter the special stage or postpone the opportunity to whenever the player feels like giving said special stage a shot. Maybe something else is meant by wishing the unlockable areas would have stayed secret. So if someone watching this interprets the piece of criticism differently, please write your interpretation in the comment. Quote, "Sonic's sensation of speed is mostly intact and most stages look impressive, but Sonic Lost World stumbles due to poor level design. Pathways don't always make sense, and all the momentum building tools in the world won't save a game from so many awkward starts and stops." Unquote. I can't come up with any instances where pathways don't make sense. Some may make less sense than others, but make sense nonetheless. All of the sections in this stage are more or less straightforward in terms of direction, and with a little experimentation in direction, one should find one's way to the goal. As seen in the blind run and the speed run, the stage seems to progress rather fluidly instead of in a tackling fashion. There are a few moments where one may need to wait a little while, but those moments are short enough and followed by challenging enough sections that the overall experience should fall on the far positive side of the spectrum. Now that I've addressed IGN's review, I'll move on to Kabanamani456's criticism. Matt at some point says the rails makes him busy, and when I do think similarly of those who play the stage the first time, I myself stopped minding it a long time ago, if I ever did. The instant speed of the rails is nice for backtracking and probably for simpler development, but something to improve would be to have more realistic rail physics. As I've stated earlier in this episode, in Kabanamani456's blind run, one or both of Dominic and Matt seem to direct criticism against the presses in this stage, more specifically that the presses stole many lives, perhaps caused by holding down the parkour button that caused them to get stuck on walls just below the presses with not enough time to avoid death. However, I find the decision to have resulted in something good, because this late into the game the player probably has gotten used to holding down the parkour button, so in this stage the player is almost forced to enhance their control of the run button. The player may learn to switch between running and walking significantly better than before. At the very last section of the stage, Kubanermane seems to criticize the choice of including the big blocks that fall down on Sonic when the player is noticed by the owl in this section. To those of you who think that is an unfair sudden death, I'd say that there are owl-summoned blocks just like these all throughout the stage that fall down after floating in the air for about a second. However, I suppose up to this point, the blocks haven't usually killed Sonic. They acted more as walls, blocking better paths. Also, blocks this big aren't as frequently found earlier in the stage. However, this use of the blocks is interesting in how it may push the player to connect the two ideas of blocks falling down after being summoned in the air, and that they are much bigger than the earlier thinner blocks, to draw the conclusion in time that one should run. While we're on the topic of difficulty, I would be very interested in a hard mode for every new Sonic game, one that would be based around adding obstacles requiring better precision, puzzle-solving skills, and more subtly hidden paths, all without reducing speed. Lost World 3DS has a hard mode, but I don't feel like it's hard enough. I don't think I've played all stages in hard mode, but I'm pretty sure I didn't feel satisfied with the significant increase in difficulty. Of course I really like the basic stages as they are, but if a hard mode is going to be made, then why make the difference so slight from the normal difficulty? I don't mean this in an absolute sense because, again, I haven't played all hard mode stages, but this is my preliminary take on the hard mode. And here ends the last part of this 4-part series of trying to redeem Silent Forest 3 of Sonic Lost World 3DS. I hope you learned a number of things from these videos, and I hope you look forward to my next episode where I'll be redeeming Silent Forest 2. If you found this series informative and worthy of watching, I'd really appreciate you liking and sharing this video. Also, if you want to be notified of when I release my next video, but it perhaps not be best if you subscribe to my channel. Stay critical and stay humble. See you next time.